the head and body and stuff. And maybe the second half of the fight, it would have been a different story. But because of the eye, it had to get stopped. It wasn't like I got like spandangled on the floor and had to anything like that. It was just the eye that swelled, the eye swelling that stopped my vision, and then obviously led to the fight being stopped.
Going into the fight, was there a game plan?
Yeah.
What was it?
There was. There's slight changes to it as well, which at the last moment, like there was one, to stay away from. It's difficult to say, to approach, like to tell you the exact game plan because it's quite complicated. It's a lot of different things.
Mm.
But I haven't really thought about it since the fight. But like the game plan was to win the fight, and I didn't deliver that. So like back to the drawing board.
Let me stop that right here. First of all, shout out to IFL TV for conducting the interview. And as you guys just heard, seen, witnessed, when asked Joyce, was there a game plan? He could not give you a truthful answer. We know we're talking about Joyce and all, and it's like kind of talking to Joe is kind of difficult at times because he's quite awkward when answering. It's almost he's real tentative I think he does more thinking than talking a lot of times, but in this case, when asked if he had a game plan, he quickly said yes. But then when asked about the game plan, even though he hasn't thought about it since he's lost, which is weird, and I'll get to that in a second, he seemed very clueless on what the game plan was, and then I think he interrupted that awkwardness with humor, like, well, to win. That was a game plan. But it makes you wonder, right, if the game plan you had was really anything else but your brute strength and your endurance and your durability, and was that your overall game plan, just your attributes, instead of actually having a systematic way of doing things, and my counterpunch to this, people, would be, first of all, I can see if he didn't. Okay? I can see, based on the performance, based on the way he was beaten, it was like he didn't have an answer for the things that were happening to him. That's why now you look at that fight and you're like, wow, he didn't have to, you heard him, he wasn't knocked out on the floor, this, that, and the other, but that doesn't mean you wasn't taking great damage. And the damage he was taking was not the type of thing you really wanted to see, especially when it's only one-sided. If this was a rock'em sock'em like robot situation, a back and forth 50-50 type situation or scenario, this would be different, but it wasn't. It was Zhilei Zhang getting the best of Joyce on most of the exchanges, if not all. And the more that I was starting to bother Joyce, the less he did. Okay. And he was either knocked off balance a couple times, in which that's really uncanny and not anything common when it comes to Joyce. Joyce is normally in the eat these shots like he's eating something. He's taking them, and he takes them well, but you could tell he was starting to not getting knocked off of his balance or his stance. And I didn't like to see that. And it just shows you, I really don't think that they had a game plan. And it does make me question Ismael Salas. Like, well, what the hell were you really doing with him? Because at any point did you tell him, hey, move your head, defend that eye, the eye's getting swell, protected, and I'm assuming they're going to do that next time. But then, the punch. He never had an answer for the punch. And it's crazy, man, because him thinking, well, hey, it's a couple things that we were working on. That's not a game plan. So basically the game plan was to use your attributes, show how tough you are, get your shots off, punch him more than you punch me, and win the fight. That's it. So when that left hand was being constantly thrown and landing on Joe Joyce, they had no answer for it because they had no defense or nothing to counteract with that. No counterpunch whatsoever. Besides, hey, go in there and get close and start throwing punches, which wasn't working. Because unlike Joe Joyce, Zhilei Zhang actually had defense. Okay, and I was just sharing that with you because this is very important to understand what went wrong in the camp. Why didn't this fighter perform a certain type of way? And it just makes you, and this pretty much tells it all. Like, listen, we didn't really have a game plan. Our game plan was to win. And if I'm Joe Joyce, I would really have to reconsider who I have as a trainer that won't instruct me to change my level of thinking or my game plan or my mindset or my strategy in this fight. Because the first person I looked at, and I'm the one to defend trainers and defend coaches, like, look, don't throw them under the bus just because you took a loss. But in this situation, it's not because he got hit and knocked out or hit to the body and dropped down or just outboxed. It's because he didn't, I don't feel, or for what I can understand, I don't think it's anything that Ishmael Salas told him to do that helped him during the adversity, during that fight, while taking those left straights, while getting bust in the right eye until it swole. There was nothing that that really, due to his performance, made me see that Ishmael Salas was saying, hey man, if this guy, he's hitting you, he's a southpaw, move to your right. Move to your right, counter with the left. Please. Stay away from that left hand. And again, he could have said that, but it's either he said it and Joe Joyce couldn't do it, or he never said it, so Joe Joyce didn't do it. Never done it. That's what we're dealing with here. That's why it was that's why it was like that, because he didn't have an answer. And when you don't have an answer, you have a trainer, that means he wasn't really hands-on with Joe Joyce like he should have. He's just accustomed to Joe Joyce doing what Joe Joyce does. Shout out to the guys that saw my exclusive with Xavier today. And Xavier was telling people what his game plan was, the things to do. And it just shows you why, like he mentioned, that's why he doesn't like to have fighters that already has been known to start going into another trainer. It's like he likes to build his fighters from the ground up, because you wouldn't see these type of problems because you know exactly what to look for. You know how this fighter and you know how you gel with this fighter. And I don't know if Ishmael Salas really gelled with Joe Joyce to really telling him to do stuff that he really needs to do, because there was no evidence of that during that fight at all. Now, again, I owe 1,000 apologies of Ishmael Salas if he did tell Joe Joyce something, but Joyce didn't do it. But this is a different situation where Joe Joyce couldn't even tell us the game plan. He couldn't even tell us the game plan except for winning. And I believe it. Just go out there and win. Do what you do. He can't hurt you. Nobody can. You're the juggernaut. Go in there and beat him up. Do your thing. And that's it. Let's go home after that. He runs out of gas or heart or whatever, steam. Let's get him. But I just think that's strange. You guys tell me what you think of Joe Joyce. Clueless on what the game plan was when he lost to Zhilei Zhang. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.